When you have no light to guide and I want to walk.
Hey everyone, it's me Tisha with It's Hanson Fans Fired Up, and I have two girls, homegirls with me, and we're going to be
Hey.
discussing some Hanson news. So, Jill, we know you, but can you reintroduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Jill Bolstridge. I am from New York City, and I've been a Hanson fan since 1997.
And Shannon, you next.
Yes, I'm Shannon Johnson. I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area, and I've been a Hanson fan since '97.
It's so cool. So let's just dive right on into things. So let's just talk about something new happened. The CD, the single, Don't Ever Change came out. So like, what do you feel about that single compared to Annalise?
I love it. I think it is. I love Annalie. Don't get me wrong. I thought Annalie was great, but I tend to love the much more upbeat rock, guitar-heavy songs. Like I love Minute Without You. I love Runaway Run. I love Watch Over Me. So this song was right up my alley. I loved it. I loved the bridge. I loved everything.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I'll piggyback off that too. I loved it. I've only listened to it once though, but I absolutely love the song. Yeah.
It's good. Like, so like, I heard a snippet and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this song. Like, I don't know. And then when I heard it all together, I was like, oh, this is just so good. Like, it kind of reminded me of Albertine, A Life from Albertine a little bit. With that rock and roll, that blues, that that hard, the good drum beats in the back. It was so good. And what did you guys think of the video?
Your video or Hanson's video? Because
my Hanson's video.
I saw your video and you're like, I've been up since midnight dancing.
Oh yeah,
yes,
awesome. I love that. I absolutely love your energy with that.
But yes, Hanson's video was great too. I always love videos where they show them playing live. I think those are like my favorite videos, as opposed to, I mean, I like all of them, but you know, some of them are much more storytelling, or they'll hire an actor and they'll take the actor through the trajectory of the journey of the song. And I love that too, but I really, really love any video where they have them. I mean, now that I'm thinking, I think almost all of them have a live component of them playing. But I like it when that's the majority of it, because to me, Hanson Live is what Hanson's all about.
It is. I have to say that I was digging Taylor in all white.
And the hair flips?
I mean, who doesn't?
Like, I have no idea like why white is his color. But I thought that maybe one concert we should just all dress up in white.
Oh yes, that's a great idea.
Him and his so he wore the white clothes for the video, and then they had like it wasn't a Hanson Time podcast. It was like a live video of them in the release. I was like, he's wearing white again. Like, what is up with that? You have 7 kids. How are you keeping these white clothes white?
And the hair flips were out of control in this video. I was like, oh yes.
I almost feel like because Taylor was wearing the white clothes, I was like, I wonder if does Taylor low-key stalk the pages, and he finds out that like the fans love him in white. He's like, well, you know what? I'll bring the white on today.
Yeah.
It is so much fun. So like one of my favorite lyrics from that song was, it says, "You show me up and prove me a pretender. You give me courage not to compromise to your monopoly. I must surrender. I need to tell you." I'm like, that's like, okay. I think one of my favorite, that's like the breakdown of the song, where it goes like kind of like the breakdown of the song, but that's like one of my favorite lyrics from the song. It's like he's chasing this girl, and she finally gets him. He's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to stay right here.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
So we are going to move right along to some of the reasons why we're here, with like the soundtrack of our lives. Well, kind of for Hanson fans, and for a lot of us, it started off in 1997 when Middle of Nowhere came out. And the Middle of Nowhere has 12 songs, but a bonus track, which is Man from Milwaukee. And I just wanted to know, for you as fans, Where were you when the Middle of Nowhere came out? Like, where were you? Like, where were you? What was your thoughts? If you can even like remember that time, like, do you remember Middle of Nowhere?
I remember the day and I blame my mom. She's the one that said, "Hey, I heard about this group, this boy band. We were in what's it called? It was called Incredible Universe. It was an electronics store." And we were in there, and she was telling me about it, and I said, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna have to find that CD." Well, I find it, and back then they had the little headphones in the electronics store where you could listen to. So I grabbed the CD, I listened. Thinking of You, very first song. I was like, I think I'm in love. I already knew. As soon as they started singing, I was like, yep, this is them.
Yes. I had the same experience. I was a little bit older than most Hanson fans. I was actually a freshman in high school. I know most Hanson fans were middle school age when it came out, but it was the summer before my freshman year in high school, I think. And so my sister, who's 13 years older than me, and she has 3 kids. She picked me up. We were going to hang out, and she had her 4 kids in the car, 3 of them in car seats. And then my nephew, who's also a diehard Hanson fan, who's my age, basically. We grew up like brother and sister. We're 3 years apart. And I get in her van, and she's like, this minivan packed with kids, and she's like, you have to hear this new song. I just went to Strawberries and bought the single because I can't stop playing it. So she pops it in, and of course it was Umbop. And I was like, so I begged her. I was like, we have to go back to Strawberries right now. She's like, I just left Strawberries. I was like, you need to take me. She's like, I have the CD. I'll play it. I was like, no, my life needs this CD. So she drove me straight to Strawberries, and my nephew and I went in, and I had like $20 in my pocket, and I saw this display. And when I saw that the band was my age, I didn't know. Just hearing the single, I didn't know. I saw the big display. Well, I walked into the guy, went straight to the counter, beeline, and I was like, do you have the new song Umbop by a group named Hanson? And he just pointed, and I turned around, and there was this huge poster, huge display, the album, the single, and I grabbed the single, and I grabbed the album, and I bought both immediately. My nephew did the same thing, and we played it all the way home, and I never stopped playing it on loop from that day forward, and I'll never forget that day, the day that changed my life.
Okay. But I think we all had this orgasmic experience together at the same time in different places of the earth. So it's so funny. So for me, I don't know. I was watching TV like VH1, and the video came on, and I was like, what is this? Like, oh my gosh, this song is so awesome. And I was like, okay, whoever's playing the keyboard, like, I'm in love with you. And so I was like, I don't know whoever you are. I don't know who you are, but I'm like so in love with you. And then after they played the video, back when we were like in teenagers, they would have like sometimes like little clips of the band. So then they had like little clips of the band and talking about Isaac Taylor and Zach. They're from Hanson. They're Hanson from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I was like, oh, I need this CD. So I had an experience like Joe. So my mom has to go to Kmart, and I was like, take me to Kmart with you. I gotta go to Kmart. And so I went to Kmart, and like you, they had like the headphones, and I grabbed just the single because at that time they only had the single. And then after that, I got the album shortly after. But Hanson, that was the first ever CD that I ever bought. Like they're my first CD ever. So like I feel like I have this weird connection to Middle of Nowhere, which is kind of like why I'm like, I kind of want to go to Tulsa in July, but I'll have fun doing it at home. So
do you guys remember when like on the CD cover, when you opened it up to read the lyrics, it just said I Hanson, T Hanson, Z Hanson? Yeah. I went crazy for weeks trying to guess their names because there was no internet, there was no like website, there was no, so I was like Ian and Timothy and Zach or like Trevor and Ian and Zach. I kept thinking Ian and then Zach and like 1,000 T names. And I tried to guess until I finally got them right. And I was trying to guess which one was which. Like, oh, I bet that one's the Z one and that one's, I was obsessed. And my nephew too. Like we were both trying to guess so hard what their names are. And I also remember, do you remember having to like rush home to get home on time to see the video? Because
oh my gosh, yeah.
I couldn't look it up on YouTube. So you had to get home at 3:30 because that was when the video countdown was. And you had to see the video.
Exactly. That's the life we lived. And we were so deprived.
Yes. Or even like if they were on somewhere on some kind of show, it's like, no, I have to be home at this time. I can't hang out at your house.
I know. No, I remember having my mom like record things for me because I was at school, and I was like, Mom, I have the DSLR ready, I have the tape ready.
Just push record.
Record. Like, Mom, don't mess this up.
Yes, and I still have boxes of VHS tapes of all the things. My favorite one, I used to get so mad when like a really late night show would say that Hanson was going to be on, and you would sit through like an hour of boring interviews and then in the last 2 minutes. But my favorite thing was when they were on Live at the 10 Spot. Do you guys remember when they did Live at the 10 Spot?
Yeah.
I watched the recording of that until I wore the tape out.
Crazy. So you know what? We need to do like the next time, like in Tulsa, we need to like get our VHSs on like DVDs and watch them.
Yes, and have a I like that idea.
So one of the reviews for Middle of Nowhere, it said that Middle of Nowhere and the guys that it sounded like a post-alternative version of the Jackson 5. What do you think about that? That review?
I think anybody being compared to the Jackson 5 is such a huge compliment because they were the princes of pop, and then of course Michael went on to be the king of pop.
Yeah.
And I remember Taylor saying that in an interview. It's such an honor to be compared to someone who's so iconic. And I mean, I can't think of a greater compliment, except that Hanson did write their own songs and play their own instruments. Not just the Jackson 5, because I love Michael in that little purple floppy hat singing "Want You Back" on
the Cher show.
Yes, thank you. Yes, but I think that's a huge compliment, and I was grateful that the band I liked was being acknowledged by mainstream media journalists.
Yes.
I didn't know this, but it said that the guys they co-wrote 9 of the 13 songs. So that's pretty cool.
Which ones did they not co-write?
I don't know if they did not co-write, but they said I was trying to look it up, I didn't find it, but maybe next podcast. But it said that they co-wrote 9 of the 13 of the songs. But I wonder like if they wrote all of the songs, and then they probably like let more into.
I know what you're saying. They co-wrote 9 of the 13, but some of them were taken from Boomerang and Bop, so they didn't co-write them. They wrote them. Got it. I thought you were saying they weren't involved in. I understand. Braveheart. And that's amazing. And anytime people have dissed Hanson to me, I think about the fact that when they wrote the lyrics to Bop, Zach was 6, Taylor was 9, and Isaac was 11. Like, what were most of us doing at 11? Not writing.
Worrying about a 64 count of crayon box, stuff like that.
No, I heard that Bop was like a campfire slow song. So I wonder what it sounded like when they were just like, because I kind of heard that they weren't really thinking of Bop to be like a big song. It was just like a song they just made up that they would just like sing.
It was supposed to be a backtrack. The Bop part was supposed to be like the doo-woppy underneath, like to underscore lyrics.
Yeah.
That was the original like thing, and then it morphed into its own song.
I agree.
And the original on the Bop CD, like the independent CD that was later on 3 Car Garage, is a lot slower.
It is. You're right. It is. Forget about that one sometimes. And then another review, it said that that this CD stands time because of was a really cool quote, and it said that they felt like Hanson like rebirthed the pop scene in the 90s. And I was like, that is such a reference.
I remember reading one article that had said something, and I wish I could cite my sources and credit the people who wrote this. I didn't write this, obviously, but I remember somebody saying that like the teenage world was so ready for Hanson because everyone was so depressed by the death of Kurt Cobain.
Yeah.
And so, like, we had gone into this like dark place with Kurt Cobain, and then we listened to bands like Nine Inch Nails and Alanis Morissette was really popular back then. And Hanson came in and it was like this breath of fresh air. It was positivity and maybe did sort of gear toward a younger crowd a little bit, but also had these huge smash hits on the radio, and it just, the world was ready for it, you know, when
it was.
I think I remember hearing Taylor saying something about that not too long ago. I was listening to an interview with them. I don't know what year it was, but he was talking about that, about all the darker music, and then they came in, and yeah.
I really feel like Hanson like pushed their way through because at that time, you mentioned some artists. We had like Alanis Morissette. You know, her big album was in 1995, like You Ought to Know. And then we also had the era where like Puff Daddy was coming out. And then we also had bands like Destiny's Child that was coming out and going into like the Beyonce. So, you know, they still have like the Mariah Carey, You'll Always Be My Baby, and her Honey CD. So like you had this genre that was like very set in music around that time. And then here comes Hanson, and I feel like they really, really pushed their way through with the CD, middle of nowhere. Do you remember any other music that was going on around that time that was maybe like a little bit more different than Hanson?
For sure, yeah. I remember loving, I think the first album I ever purchased in my life was Flood by They Might Be Giants. And I loved They Might Be Giants. I loved Alanis Morissette. I loved Nine Inch Nails. But I also, like, I remember when I was a huge Hanson fan, a lot of the kids in my school were super into Marilyn Manson and Korn.
Yeah, so Hanson, Korn, yeah. And then also you had No Doubt.
Yes, I was
around that same time. So, you know, it's like, so I kind of feel like in a way, Hanson really did not have like this spot. So they kind of like really like pushed their way through. And, you know, and I really am thankful for that because I feel like my first celebrity crush was Taylor Hanson. Like, I swear.
Taylor Thomas.
I was about to say, I wish I could say that, but mine was Jonathan Taylor Thomas as well.
I did like JTT. So Jonathan Taylor Thomas, yes, I did. But then as him and Devin Sawa, because I used to love watching Casper. So,
yes.
But then when Jordan Taylor Hanson came, it was like, ooh.
I don't know who any of those others are. Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember having.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh.
Yes, I remember having Jonathan all over my walls, and then the more I listened to Hanson, slowly JTT came off, and there goes Hanson right on my wall.
Yes. Since you brought up walls, I did bring something that I wanted to show, and maybe people have already seen me post about this on Facebook and are sick of it, but I recently, during the pandemic, went to my mother's house into my childhood bedroom and took down all my old posters, and I had them bound into a book. And I went to this amazing book bindery here in Brooklyn. There's this amazing book bindery, and he did this incredible job binding my posters. And I called it called Pictures on the Wall. And this is all of the collages that I had made as a teenage child in Connecticut. Wow. I love this. I used to do that pose that Zach.
That's amazing.
I feel really special about that because I was there when they signed it, and like Taylor's face was like, holy cow! Like his face, he looked like he was like very proud, but he was just like, this is massive. And then when Isaac saw Isaac was like, oh no.
I know. Keisha and I went out back during the November concerts, like she said, and I was like, and it was great because of the limited ticketing. There were only maybe a dozen fans in the back that had these autographs, so I didn't feel like I was hogging too much of their time. I just said, could I show you something? And I passed it through the gate, and someone took a ton of pictures of Taylor looking through it, and then Taylor and Isaac both signed it for me, and Taylor put little music notes all over it. But this book is huge. I don't know if, well, yeah, I guess you can tell how big it is but it's the size of a full
the posters,
poster. These are the walls of my childhood bedroom, and it goes on. So I even all the way up through this time around.
Like, I want a book like that now. Like, I want one now.
Nice. Yeah.
And if anybody out there is interested in having this done, I can recommend you to the bookbindery because he did an amazing job. I laminated each page, and then the bookbinder did a top-notch professional job of it. So
yeah, so that's the one thing. So like, I do feel special that I was actually there to see their faces. To them, it was like a yearbook. Like, literally, when you show someone like Hanson that, because they started at such a young age, so when you show them that, like, I feel like to them, like, that's like a yearbook of their life. Like, holy cow! Like, I was 13, I was 14. Oh my god! So, they kind of had like this like smile on their face, like, wow, like this is like
Isaac just shook his head and was like, wow, like almost like I can't believe you did this, but wow.
It was so cute.